Hello again, Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to talk A&M football. The Aggies were riding atop the SEC a week ago. Then they went to South Carolina, had a bitterly disappointing 44-20 loss. Is the season over? No, of course not. Aggies still tied for first in the SEC, but guess what? Some things need to get better based on what we saw Saturday. Let's jump right into it, Chase. We're going to go into three keys for the Aggies going forward to bounce back. What's your key number one?
Well, I think the first thing to me is find some consistency offensively. Look, when you bounce back from different quarterbacks, Connor Wegman started the season. He was injured. Marcell Reed came in, provided a little spark for them. He had his troubles. Wegman comes back in, has a good game, then doesn't play well. Reed comes back in. Before the game Saturday, Mike Elko told ESPN in ABC that Marcell Reed is the starting quarterback now and will be for the rest of the season. Wegman's going to take the backup role. But I feel like when there's constant turnover at quarterback, it's hard to get a rhythm, get established offensively because different guys do different things. They're not the same person. And so you have to play to their strengths and weaknesses. And so therefore you can't get into a rhythm. The old saying goes, if you have more than one quarterback, you don't have a quarterback, because again, you can't get into a rhythm offensively. And so I think that's what Texas A&M needs to do. If Marcell Reed's their guy, ride with him. Let him go to work these last few games and try to get some consistency going offensively. They've been able to win games, which I think is good going back and forth. They haven't been perfect by any means, but no team is. But I think moving forward, find some consistency. They were not consistent Saturday night against South Carolina, coming off a game I thought they were for the most of the game against LSU. So I think find some consistency, ride with Marcell Reed, and let him go to work. I feel like that's kind of my first thing that they needed to do.
Couple things I want to unpack there. I mean, you still have Connor Wegman in tow in case, and there's times he's been really good. Other times that he's not been good. I think maybe that correlates to health. So you still do have a backup quarterback who's shown capable of being capable of good things. You also have Marcell Reed, who is a guy who is a real running threat and actually has been better than Wegman so far, passing the ball, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, as compared to Wegman's 3 and 4. But I'm just very interested to how it plays out at the quarterback position. There's another thing I want to bring up that relates to that too, Chase. The other thing I would like to bring up, Le'Veon Moss, who left the game, looked like he was going to be out for the year. Mike Elko gave an update this week saying maybe not as bad as it looks. He may be more than any quarterback the guy that makes that offense go. Look, if he gets back and he looks healthy, and looking ahead, they do have a bye week to rest, which, boy, that comes at a great time. Then they got New Mexico State, a game they can win without him. They get him back and he's okay, then the offense looks probably different than it did at Carolina.
I think it does. He's a big part of this. And, when you have a guy like that go out, that really hurts the team. And so it would be good for A&M to get him back very soon, I feel like.
Key number 2, Chase.
Yeah, they need to get back to stopping the run. This Texas A&M defense, I thought they were lights out against LSU. They only allowed 24 yards rushing against the Tigers. And then you flip over to this past week again against South Carolina. They gave up 286 yards to South Carolina rushing the football, 3 rushing touchdowns. 144 yards were Rocket Sanders. He had 2 touchdowns. 106 yards were Lenore Sellers, and he had a touchdown. So South Carolina was able to run all over A&M, a team that's done well at stopping the run. And so I think that's something they need to get back to. And again, these were 2 really good runners that they did face in South Carolina. Rocket Sanders being a very strong runner. But I feel like A&M at times this season has been really good at stopping the run, but they were not Saturday. They need to get back to that.
Well, I think one thing that's going to help is the schedule. I'm not sure there's another running quarterback on the schedule like they've seen. I've just thrown New Mexico State out. Auburn, Peyton Thorne can run a little bit, but he's not Lenore Sellers. And Texas just isn't going to really run either with Ewers or Manning. So that's one thing. The other thing, I just thought that just was an off game for them. I don't think that's really representative of what the run defense is. I've got some reasons on that I'll unpack in your next point, but just some things there to consider.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and yeah, the schedule is much favorable when it comes to the kind of quarterbacks that they're going to be facing for sure.
All right. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the early sides to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Chase, point number 3 on how the Aggies can bounce back after that loss in Columbia.
Yeah, I think they need to clean up penalties. That was a big thing against South Carolina. They had 7 penalties for 68 yards. And, I mean, you had late hits, offsides, defensive holding, just really some undisciplined things for Texas A&M that I feel like we haven't seen a lot of. I go back to that Notre Dame game. I went back as I was looking at this. They had 6 penalties for 55 yards and a couple of those things in that loss as well to Notre Dame. But I feel like they haven't struggled with undisciplined penalties like they did against South Carolina. And maybe that was frustration, the way the game was going and everything. But I feel like they really need to clean up those kind of things. There's going to be penalties in games. There's going to be holding. There's going to be mental mistakes that you have. But I think it's these undisciplined penalties is what really plagued A&M and what they need to clean up moving forward.
Yeah, as I was watching the game, I was kind of astonished at how dumb some of those penalties were. Now, my concern is that was right along the line with their average, 68 a game. But it is correctable. I think they were more lack of focus more than they were lack of ability. I think sometimes you can divide penalties into 2 categories. I saw those. Now, again, the fact that they have not done better is something. But I think if I'm Mike Elko, I'm preaching that really hard during the off week.
Yeah, you got to and clean some of that up. We've seen other teams struggle with that too as well. Yeah, and you were on the road. The environment was tough. You're going to get penalties like that, and it's a physical game. But yeah, just the undisciplined penalties are what you can't have if you want to be a playoff caliber team like A&M's trying to be.
Yeah, and to the focus part of it, I thought that performance was so off the level of what they've been. I wonder if they read the press clippings, a little too much going into Columbia.
Yeah, that certainly wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we've seen teams do that. That's very easy to do, and coming off an emotional win like they did. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if that was the case either of what happened on Saturday.
All right, Chase, we got a lot of football, basketball, and baseball to cover. We're in the basketball season already. So been covering that. We're going to have a live stream every Saturday night on this channel. We start those about 9:30 Central to wrap up the day's action. To get that, hit that subscribe button. That's free. Enable your notifications so you know when we go live, and hit the like button. That helps our analytics. If you're interested in advertising, we reach millions a year. That is caroline.smith at southeastern14.com. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.